there are more people using cannabis today than ever before. Also, are just looking to like take the edge off a little bit, but don't want that hangover.
We started dosing. We came out with the 2, 5, and 10. Start low and slow. With
How can you even advertise for it?
We are in a regulated industry. It's an adult use industry. When we decided to get together, our attorney was literally like, "This will be harder to dissolve than your marriage if you decide to break up."
Yeah.
Hey friends, welcome to Above the Fold podcast. I'm your host, Jess. We're going to be talking about everything in your customer's journey. You're going to learn things about customer experience, brand experience, and marketing secrets that help you drive your brand success. So stay tuned, buckle up, and let's get into the episode.
Hey besties. Do I have a special treat for you or what? This week's Above the Fold episode is a little bit different. Today, we've got a special bonus episode. This is from my After Hours live show that I filmed in studio and streamed live on LinkedIn. In this conversation, I sat down with the team from MixMix, where we didn't just talk consumer marketing, we went deep into the world of cannabis marketing, from brand strategy to the unique challenges of marketing in a highly regulated space. This one's packed with insights that everybody can learn from. And if you ever want to catch After Hours live, be sure to follow Open Lake Collective on LinkedIn. We host After Hours once a month, and we'd love for you to join the conversation. Okay, let's get into it.
Sup fam, welcome back to another After Hours live. We're doing things a little bit different, because live show, we like this. Tonight, we're diving into one of the fastest evolving spaces in CPG, the future of THC. And we're not just talking about cannabis products, we're talking about MixMix. The THC crystals shaking up the industry. So without further ado, I got 3 homies that are joining me for this live show tonight. I'm going to have each of them introduce themselves real quick. Allison, we're going to start with you.
All right. Allison Disney. Nice to see everyone. Thanks for having us. Co-founder of MixMix. Spent a lot of time in creative agency life, big time Chicagoan, and love drinks. Couldn't drink alcohol anymore. So here we are and diving deep into the weed space.
Katelin?
I was going to say, it's hard to go after that. I'm Katelin Randall. I do a lot of the marketing for MixMix. I am also previous agency. That's how I know Allison. Really excited to dive into MixMix today.
Matt.
Hi, Matt Sabo, co-founder, all things ops for MixMix. Ex-alcohol bev, ex-beverage for non-alc too. So excited. Thanks for having us. A lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have this squad on because we are in my hometown, Chicago, and we got to represent CPG products in Chicago. We're people know this town as mostly like supply chain ops, but we got some baddie marketers and ops people.
Oh yeah, we let them hang out with us.
So listen, edibles, drinks, vapes, pre-rolls, all the eras of cannabis consumption, and it's always had a moment, but consumer habits overall are shifting. People want discretion, convenience, precise control over their experience. Edibles also account for 67% of THC consumption, right? And the demand for microdosing and customizable effects is bigger than ever. And I would even say like there's even in mushroom, but like specifically in THC, it's kind of nuts. So I think that's where MixMix comes in. You're a brand that's betting on the future of THC. You're flexible, portable, and seamlessly integrated into daily routines. So I really want to break all of those things down and talk about how you're disrupting that category. And I'd really like to start with my marketing girlies first. Matt, you will have your moment. I will promise you.
He'll pipe in, moment, don't worry.
Okay? So I really want to talk about like THC is noisy. Like how does MixMix break through all of that noise? And so let's start with like, why does the world need MixMix?
You want to go first?
Sure. Well, I mean, you touched on a lot of it just even in your setup there, Jess. I think there are more people using cannabis today than ever before. Like as the category is legalized, it's made it, less scary for people who maybe are looking for functional benefits that cannabis can provide but hadn't considered it before. And for folks that really love cannabis, it's just giving them another opportunity to use it in different occasions in their life. So I think that there's a lot of reasons why, both from a functional product standpoint, that this can really fit into the needs of people right now who are feeling more stress, more anxiety, having more trouble sleeping, also are just looking to like take the edge off a little bit, but really, maybe they still like to drink sometimes, but don't want that hangover every time that they drink anymore. So we feel like there's a lot of reasons why, in terms of what it does for you, this product is the right fit for folks. But emotionally too, we wanted to make something for adults to kind of just have permission to have fun and have a good time with cannabis too. Like, great, it can have a functional benefit, but also like just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Just have fun.
I think one of the things that well said. But I think one of the things that separates MixMix, sorry, can you hear me? Apart is the flexibility that you kind of mentioned. Everyone has a busy day from the minute they get up to the day they go to, or the moment they go to bed. And I think, having the ability to have a product that fits into your life versus asking you to come up with a new behavior, such as, smoking or, taking a random edible before going into a movie makes it feel like you're kind of hiding something. I think what MixMix brings to the table is that, it's really flexible. You can put it in anything you're eating or drinking, and you can, make it taste whatever you're eating and drinking, make it taste better and feel the effects of the cannabis.
Yeah. Well, I think what's really interesting that you guys have actually hit on is the fact that, like, okay, I'm going to age myself right now. I'm so sorry. But I'm a millennial, right? Like, I grew up in an era of, honestly, club era. Like, I was always going out. I was always drinking. Like, I also grew up in Louisiana. So, like, that's a whole thing, right? I be drinking with my Mima at the crawfish boil.
I'm right there with you.
Like, real early on. But, as I got older, I don't actually want to be hungover anymore. I don't want to be drunk, right? But like sometimes I want to have a little bit of fun, and maybe that's not even in a mocktail perspective, right?
Yes, I couldn't agree more. Like, I love all the RTDs, don't get me wrong. This is not shade to any of them because I've tried most of them, but I love the idea that I can make my own. So like, I don't have to drink fizzy, ready to drink mocktails all night if I want to still get kind of a euphoric effect, but not drink alcohol. I can throw it in water. I can put it in, something I'm already drinking. The flexibility to like step up a night and kind of still be a part of that while like out to dinner and not feel like, oh, I'm that, I'm not drinking. Everyone's going to look at me differently. Like we still get to be our millennial vibers, but we don't have to
like
drink.
Our friend.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, I think on even like, let's even talk about like brand strategy specifically. Like, you guys have a really fun approach. Anybody tuning in, we'll bring it up on screen, but it's really fun. It's nostalgic. That's actually what I love about that.
She got the strategy.
Who came up with the nostalgia direction?
Actually, we looked at a lot of different things, but we work with a great team in the Young Jerks, and they actually help bring some of the nostalgia in terms of the look and feel for us. But we always approach this category as like, powder drink mixes or something that need disrupting too. Like, I also a millennial. I'm not going to say which end of the millennial spectrum, but also a millennial. I grew up in a household with like Crystal Light. Like, my mom was making those pictures of powdered drinks, growing up as a kid and all of that. And so there is like something, we knew that cannabis was going to take a certain amount of education, and we really wanted to be able to help people understand the benefits of a low dose consumable like this. But we didn't want people to have to learn everything else, right? So like having something that feels a little bit familiar, even if it's like a little bit of reinvented twist, means that it's just a little bit more accessible and approachable to people. So that's why we went kind of that nostalgic feel. And actually, we looked at a lot of like 70s grocery handwritten signage. Like, think of your produce like shop, your bodega with the handwritten signs. That was a little bit of the inspiration for the logo.
I love it. I have a lot more questions about like regulation, but we're going to wait to get there, because one of the things that like just popped up for me, and this is actually more for you, Matt, is, for all of y'all, but I know you're the king of the formulation.
Let's see what it is first.
I'm just really curious. Right? It's like we always have edibles, we have vapes, we have pre-rolls, we have all these things, right? And I know, of course, like we know the idea and the brand strategy around it, but how did you approach like formulation, right? Like, how did you say like this is the format that we want to do, and then approach that?
Yeah, the format part's interesting because you look at this like this wasn't our first iteration. Like we started thinking about building something one, we wanted to build something for us. Like if we looked at each of us as consumers, what is that we thought was missing from the market that we could innovate? We spent a lot of time on RTDs, ready to drink of.
Should we admit what it was?
Oh yeah, there was definitely one where Katelin was like, "Ew,
yeah,
no, we're not making that."
Yeah. It might have been oat milk. Okay.
Really?
And which tastes like dirt as to begin with.
For those that do not like it,
yeah.
Yep.
Sorry.
For sure.
So I'm like, we don't need weedy dirt. Oat milk.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to do this with you too, but not
That's
that
why
way.
this is a team.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly, 100%. Well, two things. One, we found that you could paint yourself into a corner with an RTD, and we had too many avenues we wanted to go down. So if you wanted to make a THC mocktail that's a margarita that puts you into a margarita occasion, and that's a time of day that is with certain groups of people, and we got frustrated by that. Like that was too limiting for what we wanted to do. We also, besides the product itself, looking at the P&L and how the COGS rolled up, the beverage game is tough. Like it doesn't matter if it's THC or not. And when you start getting into the D2C part of it, where you're shipping water around, there's several barriers to making that challenging. Like you really need to get to retail and live there in addition to doing direct to consumer.
Yeah.
Stick packs though will give you a lot of degrees of freedom for that COGS puzzle.
Yeah.
So we can put something that is fairly costly in the THC portion of it. When you look at cost of goods and taxes and everything that adds up for the total cost, and gives you more freedom with flavors, how it tastes, maybe the branding that we do. And that was really like the unlock for us, is this format really helps us do a lot more than we could have with just an RTD.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we won't go there in the future, but we really like where
maybe
we
your
started
oat milk dreams can live again.
Gen
I'm
3.
thinking though that the oat milk is kind of had its moment. It's over.
We'll call it the Katelin special.
Yeah, exactly. Although he's not giving himself enough credit, though, his flavors are just, quite frankly, delicious. And the way that they come out in this powder, it doesn't overwhelm anything you put it in. It really complements and makes it even better. So I have to give you your flowers.
Yeah, well, if we're throwing compliments
good.
around too, we did choose. So I think one of the, because they're so flexible in what you're talking about versus an RTD, I mean, tons of runway for limited editions, collabs, seasonals, things where we can, as long as we can come up with the next flavor, they're really easy for us to like bring something that consumers, want or we get feedback on. But you also formulated these so that the flavors we started with are complementary.
Yep.
So if it's like, hey, maybe I want a little ginger citrus today, they all of the flavor profiles complement each other really well when you mix and match.
Yeah. We coming from we all have different CPG backgrounds and portfolio brands that they get a product their own success. So you get too far down the runway and you start just iterating on flavors.
Yep.
Maybe you can't do formats, you're locked into a certain type. I used to work at Diageo with Smirnoff, and when you get to here's the plan for next year, it's flavors 23 and 24 of Smirnoff. You really don't have a lot of room to move when you get to that point. So we do a flavor strategy for MixMix. We really have to be mindful of where we're going. Mm-hmm. And we started at a place where we're trying to keep close to the 5 taste sensations, whether it's sweet, salty, sour, tart, or bitter, and then mild.
Okay, 5 taste sensations.
It was awesome when he taught us this.
Love this.
There was a diagram.
Yeah, there was.
What's a circle, really?
Yeah, he took us to class that day.
But that allows us to we can do tons of flavors with that as long as we balance out that portfolio. So we don't need 6 sweet ones. We don't need 6 tart ones. We want to make sure we spread it around so that the flexibility for one consumer versus another, they've got something that can go with them to their occasion.
And we want consumers to tell us, as the brand grows and as we, find more of our core audience, we want them to tell us what flavor they want next,
Yeah, Jess, what flavor do you want?
Yeah. I love a lemon lime.
Ooh, okay.
I love a lemon lime, but as we know, because I'm building, I'm also a cherry girl. Cherry lime.
Cherry's having its moment.
I know.
Really.
Cherry's having its moment. So, well, we talk a lot about usage and the reason why. And I actually when we were doing some research before starting this, what I thought was a really interesting statistic that I wanted to share is that, so as we talk about edibles are the most popular THC product among consumers. Truthfully, I don't really, granted, again, I'm a millennial. Okay. I grew up in the days where you would literally purchase, God, I hope this doesn't get me in trouble. I don't think it will.
I was going to say, is my mom watching?
I know. You would literally purchase weed from a dealer, right?
Yep.
Like there wasn't dispensaries. There wasn't dispensaries. And like we would have to go through this like very shady practice of it. But I actually fucking hated smoking. I hated smoking, and I would get like too stoned, be in the corner somewhere. So like that's honestly why like I don't really smoke anymore. But my point is of bringing this up is then, okay, so then regulations have like escalated, like done, or, you know, carried on. I can't think of the word right now, but you know what I'm saying, right? Yeah. Evolve. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I got you.
My
I
co-host
got
is
you.
here.
Yeah, I was going to say. It's a tryout.
I know. This is literally a live show. Most people are used to the podcast. Things get edited, but whatever. So point is though, right, is used to smoke weed, used to do all these things, then we evolved and we did edibles. And so going back to like the edible, like being the most popular amongst consumers, people I know who weren't even like smoking weed anymore, like, or in doing any of those things, have started taking gummies, this, that, and the other thing. But this is the interesting statistic here is that 67% of consumers, of like THC consumers, are reporting like usage. And then within that 67%, this consumption preferences vary by generation. For instance, 55% of Gen Z users prefer vape cartridges, which is so fucking weird.
I mean, they like tobacco vapes, too,
I know,
to be fair.
I know. But the other thing I was going to say is going to your points about beverage, 21% opted for THC-infused beverages. So it suggests, like, obviously we know the trend is discreet and convenient consumption, but I think what's really interesting is that we're going to start seeing more of a shift in that consumption, like goes to edibles, then it goes to beverage, to other ways of consuming. Like there isn't a space where it's like I can salt my little popcorn with my salts, right? And get a little Stony Bear, right? In the theater. And I just think that's really like awesome because lastly, the other piece that I wanted to say is that like just the cannabis industry is like a $4 billion industry, if not more. I think that even that statistic is like too low because that like it was a report of $4 billion in sales between 2023 to mid 2024, which is nuts, right?
She's growing.
I know. So I think I think controlled dosing and all of those things. But what my other question to you is like, okay, so they come in like what, 2 milligrams, 5 and 10?
You got
right?
it.
I do.
So how did you decide on those dosages? Knowing all this stuff.
I'm not sure if we have the answer.
I know. I knew Matt would be.
It's all of our doses. No, I'm kidding.
Well, it really is. And it is a little bit, I mean, listen, to Matt's earlier point about like our ability to make these and iterate on the product. We started in brick and mortar and dispensaries here in Illinois. And we knew that we were entering into a market that was fair in the scheme of the rest of the country, fairly new in terms of adult use at the time. And so a lot of the folks that like go to a dispensary first are people who are really big advocates of the industry and like love cannabis in all of its formats, right? So we want to make sure we had some things that were a little bit on the higher end of the low dose for those folks that are just enthusiasts of the category, right? And then we also wanted to have some things lower dose for folks that are maybe newer to the category, learning more about it, using it, and more of the occasions you were talking about. But, you know, our goal is to, like, again, iterate based on the feedback that we get from our users. Like, we might find that some people like a certain flavor at a certain dosage, and they use it in this one occasion all the time.
Yeah.
Great. I want to make more of those for you so that you can use it the way that you want. So we started with that, a little bit of a spectrum just so that we had something for the cannabis community at large, and then iterate into the right fit for the right consumer.
I also think you tapped into something really universal when you were talking about cannabis use prior to legalization, which is, I think we can all admit everyone's had a bad experience, like with an edible or with cannabis. And so, you know, we do have a lot
day,
to,
right?
Yeah.
We've all been,
we've all been there.
We were so hopeful.
Not me, Mom, but but one of the things when we decided we wanted to make a product is, you know, we really wanted to make sure dosing was at the center, you know, and the optionality. so that we could bring people to the category. Because like you said, I think there are a lot of people who are really interested in cannabis, but are nervous to take the plunge because they've had a bad experience or they're not exactly sure how it'll affect them. So in terms of why we started dosing, or we came out with the 2, 5, and 10, is really that mix and match of ability. So like start low and slow with a 2 milligram. Then, if you want a little bit more, you can continue to have you can have multiple in a night, or you can go up to 5 and 10. So yeah, the 10 is definitely for more of the experienced user, but we definitely are really interested in bringing those people who are curious to the category.
Yeah, you know what I'm really interested in, because you Allison, you were talking about like surveying. How do you survey this audience? Because like when you go into retail, let's just like take out cannabis, right, and like dispensaries. Like usually when you go into retail with a CPG product, it's really hard to like understand your customer because you like lose them because they're just picking it up off the shelf. You have a D2C program, all these things that can like help you more. So I'm curious, like, how are you getting data points on your consumer?
Well, that's one of the reasons we're really excited to launch into D2C as well, obviously, because the first party data will abound, right? But a lot of it is just being high touch with our consumers. Like we are at pop-ups, with partnering with different retailers who are throwing different community events and things like that, talking to people about the product, getting their feedback, answering their questions. And when we were in the R&D process, we also had we have a qualitative survey link, and every time someone tries a stick, we're like, I'm just going to text you this link if you want to fill out a couple questions when you're done. Let us know.
2 minute
survey, right?
Yeah. We've become those marketers.
Yeah, we're literally those people. But it's really, a lot of it is just being high touch in that one-to-one feedback. But also, having worked with other bigger cannabis brands than us too that have more scale than we do at this point, like there are lots of ways to get even national surveys executed at this point. Yeah. Like thank goodness for, the digital research revolution, like digital ethnographies and all that stuff. You can get to folks really easily through a WhatsApp chat or something like that,
I'll also give a little bit away before I won't make promises to Allison because this is her number one thing she wants is when we're launching our D2C site, she does want, we do want to include some sort of a survey in terms of like, what might you want so that we can help guide the consumer down the funnel.
Yeah.
But I just don't want to promise day one. But, that is
too late.
like we're all millennials. We love a quiz and our People magazine. So we kind of want to include that kind of functionality on our site that helps you pick your dose and pick your flavor more so than the dose.
Oh my God.
I know.
I never, ever put the fact that we are millennials and grew up with magazines.
Yes.
People
and we used to take quizzes. What's your astrology sign?
Or
are you compatible?
Go down the funnel to the if yes, go this way.
You guys, I am literally a marketer, and I just like, wait a minute.
You gotta gamify this.
We've been programmed to be this way.
Literally. Oh my God.
We get nervous though that we're getting a little too millennial, and you should see Allison and I are the social media managers. And I wish someone had a backstage feed of us trying to comment on things or be like, is that too many hearts?
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, exactly. Too many purple hearts on that post.
Wait, is Matt ever in these group chats?
No, I'm a Gen X.
No.
That's the problem. More magazines and newspapers.
I do like to say we're an intergenerational founding team. Katelin is a millennial, but she's almost a Gen Z. I'm definitely an aging millennial, and Matt bringing home the Gen Xers.
Yep.
Very serious.
Hey, viewpoints are important.
Right.
Exactly.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Matthew. You're welcome.
Okay, I want to talk about marketing in like just a highly regulated space, right? So like no ads. What are you doing? Like THC?
Can I stop you?
Yeah, go.
No
Bust
ads.
the myth.
That's the myth. As I look into the camera.
Okay, tell me
what misconception. Actually, Allison Disney here sits on the Cannabis Media Council, and so they are publishing a lot of
national campaigns,
and literature around campaigns or advertising as it pertains to cannabis. So you have an expert right here.
Okay, let's talk about it. Like, I want to know about these campaigns. I want to know. I mean, you don't have to go like the ins and outs and like don't give out your secrets, but like I want to know just like how is THC or just cannabis like how can you even advertise for it?
I mean, we are in a regulated industry. It's an adult use industry. There's age gates around it. We are not the first industry that fits that description. So the rules are kind of already published out there for us. And Katelin's selling herself short now too. By day, Katelin and I still do a bit of consulting on the marketing side with other cannabis folks. And, we've broken campaigns on Spotify. We've broken campaigns in AMC theaters. Like, if you can age gate it and, in the digital world we live in, like, you can hyper target and
this is sponsored by MixMix.
That's right.
Don't worry, we're going to put an ad in there now.
I mean, it's funny. Like, actually, organic sometimes the harder thing for cannabis brands, because depending on the platform you're in, they'll kind of have their own little countries in terms of their rules and regulations.
Yeah.
So you have to be, smart about those. But yeah, paid media, they're
very little
media companies would love cannabis advertising dollars.
Well, I've been like, you guys, I've learned 2 things on my own show. I just put the nostalgia back into quizzes and teen bop, and we can actually do hyper-targeted paid ads.
Super targeted, yeah.
So is that your strategy?
Also, like,
I've got a plan ready to go.
That's right. Katelin's just waiting for the green light from this side of the table. But yeah, I mean, that's another reason why we're so eager to. So we're in dispensaries right now in Illinois, but we have another formula that we're looking to launch in D2C, right?
Yeah.
Matt,
around the corner. Stay tuned.
Soon.
Yeah.
So soon.
So soon. But that really helps us, like, capture more of the value we create through those paid campaigns and those digital spaces if you can go online and order it through a website, right?
Yeah,
so,
totally. Yeah,
first party data. Numbers.
Going back to the new formulation, I obviously, I don't want you to, give out the secrets, right? But I'm so curious. I'm really curious is, how do you explore cannabis formulation? It's just tell me about the sourcing.
Great question. I think the thing to remember is we come from a place of we want to keep this as straightforward as possible for the consumer, and while also trying to respect who's come before us and who's developed products, especially in the edible space. If you're on inhalants or on flower, there's people that are building their entire careers on the agricultural side. Like, we're going to make a very specific strain, and we're going to target the feeling that we want from it. On the edible side, we're really hyper-focused on the format. So how do we do something that tastes great, is replicable batch to batch, which is not a given in cannabis edibles today, and has the effect that consumers want to expect every time. So it's not a Russian roulette of, I'm not sure which I'm going to get. Every time I take a dose, it's the same. So it's more consistency, really, than it is about what strain is this, how many minors do I have in it? So we do have a little bit of CBD that's in our formula. Our, guiding principle is that we will continue to work on that base when we have new data that says, you know what, a benefit to the high that we're trying to provide, let's do this.
Wow, you're like a high doctor. Dr. High.
Working on it. Working on it for sure. But it's also don't go overboard with that. We have a lot of skepticism being in the industry, in food and beverage in general. So when you get to claims, if you're promising the world, and then you get to it, you're like, this is caffeine, right? Or this is something that's very straightforward that you can get other places. I think our differentiator is going to be, it tastes great. It's precision, low dose, and it's reliable in that you're going to get the same experience each time.
Yeah. Yeah, the same experience each time.
So I'll say in the gummy and the chocolate bar space, this is one myth. I'm talking to whoever's watching. Everyone assumes that when you cut a gummy in half or bite off a piece of chocolate, you're getting half of the dose. That is not how it works. Yeah. You could be getting all of it in one half of that gummy, and that's why people have really varying experiences when they do that. And so that is one of the things that Matt taught me, because it did blow my brain. Because obviously when you're like, oh, I took a half, I'm getting half the dose. But that's not how it works. And that's kind of also to the point of why we chose to do low dose too. So that I'd rather there you go, ASMR. I'd rather do have a couple 2 milligrams to get the right dose than bite bite a corner off a gummy and hope for the best.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, totally. Like, okay, again, I'm aging myself here. But so as much as I told you I grew up in Louisiana, I spent my adult life in California. And I actually, oh God, I trimmed weed for like as like a side hustle.
I
like,
love it.
For
Don't
like,
be ashamed.
but like I had like a real job
safe here.
too. I know. I'm like I had a real job too on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, yeah.
I had a real job. I just was like out of like just curiosity. I had like a trimming, and this was like before things were like things were legalizing, but not. But one of the brands is actually a really popular like chocolate brand or whatever, Kiva.
Yeah,
They're delicious.
Yeah, they're huge
crushing
now,
it.
right?
Yeah, they're crushing it.
So I used to trim for them, right? But it wasn't for them. It was like through growers
Right.
that
To
then
supply
supplied
them.
them.
Yeah.
It's just so crazy. Like we're so regulated now, and we can go to this maker, this manufacturer, like these people, and do all of these things. But I mean, like then you guys, it was like the weed dealer and like the trimming and the in the corner, like don't tell nobody, you know?
Well, I mean, in fairness, like a lot of on the supply side and the agricultural side, like a lot has changed certainly, but a lot hasn't changed too. When it comes to like the quality of the plant and like how you grow it and process it and all of those things, like this all still starts with a plant, you know? So everything you're describing, like, yeah, they still have to get trimmed and they still have to get processed and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's, you know, the fact that, I mean, don't get me started on the whole nature of like regulation and the fact that it's legal now. I mean, I think this plan has benefited a lot of people. So
Yeah.
glad more people can benefit.
But you're also touching on how we make the product, right? So we don't have licenses here in Illinois. We have co-manufactured.
Yeah.
We've always planned to be. We've always planned to use co-manufacturers because we didn't want to have to go through the process of getting licensed in the legal framework, but also we didn't want to be CapEx heavy in terms of our business model so that we could scale faster. And so making sure, I mean, Matt is so wonderful at this, making sure that we're picking the right people, because to that point, like quality and like having the exact same experience every time is essential to the premise that we're bringing to market from a product.
Yeah.
It's also choosing your lane too. Like in food and beverage, it's very common to co-manufacture because your expertise is on manufacturing at scale, or there's fulfillment or 3PL. Like you pick the things that you want to build very deep expertise in and focus on that. And then the brand assembles, the best partners to deliver that or to scale it. We definitely wanted to have the center of our IP to be how it tastes and how it's put together.
Yeah.
The brand itself.
Yeah. I love that. Well, one thing that's like coming up for me is like we're talking a lot about taste, we're talking a lot about like, regulation or marketing and all these things. But what I'm really curious about, and going back to your point about like, okay, if you dosage incorrectly, like you live show.
Well, no one can hear me. It's fine. It's for the best.
But you were talking about like, like just mix match dosages, right? So how are you guys like building trust like through marketing? Because my point is that like if all these other edibles, we've done all these other edibles and like we could be on the wrong dosage. And I know in like packaging, we're talking about like, mix in, even out, like dosing correctly. How are you building that trust? Like truly?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of that is high touch again, but it's also when it comes to in a weird turn of events, the three people that started a cannabis brand like are all pretty big rule followers in their day-to-day lives.
Probably too much.
Yeah, probably too much. So
Don't break the law.
Yeah, right. So, in some markets where, we potentially operate, they require child-safe seals and some do not, right? Because you're buying it, in some cases, most cases, obviously from a marijuana standpoint, you're buying it through a regulated dispensary. We will always opt for a child-safe seal no matter what, no matter where we are, right? When it comes to like the disclaimers on the package, we have more disclaimers probably on here than we need to because we feel like information is key for people to be able to, feel safe and excited about trying our product. And then we try to put in lots of points for feedback too. We've got our social media DMs. We have certainly contact forms on our website, and we're also out in the world and working closely with our retail partners and stuff too. So we want to make sure if people have a question or a problem, we're responsive.
Yeah. And how are you helping them, guiding them towards their ideal MixMix experience?
Yeah, it's a content game first, in terms of how we do it. I think everyone who's had cannabis businesses, we all come from the same spot of starting low and slow, right? Any brand you kind of consume typically says take the lower dose first, or, if you're new to this, take one, wait 2 hours. There's kind of a little bit of dialogue there, but really ensuring that the content that we put out there is continuously educating our consumers so that they know what they should expect in terms of feel. But in reality, cannabis is not much different than alcohol in the sense of but I'm going to be Matt for a second.
Cool. Go for it.
And then if you want to take over, you can. But and working with Matt, I've learned a lot about, your metabolism and how you metabolize alcohol is different. Like we would metabolize it differently depending on what you ate that day, how much water you've had, et cetera. So it's similar in cannabis of you can have a little bit of a different experience depending on your height, what you've eaten, all sorts of things. How'd I do?
Pretty good.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, if low dose is making waves, right? And just in general, do you think that if it's becoming the norm, do you think that we'll continue seeing more and more products coming out with lower dosage? I don't know enough about the cannabis industry to know about more edible products is my point.
I think consumables are just getting started. Yeah. I mean, you kept mentioning how popular edibles are, but hats off to the folks who are leading the charge on the infused beverage side. We talked about RTDs. There's a reason we started looking at that first. It's been growing faster than the category since, you could make them in the regulated market. And I think you're going to keep seeing consumables grow because not just like any other food or beverage product, cannabis users are not homogenous, right? We have different folks who use for different reasons and want different things. And
even dogs.
Even pets get your CBD treats, yeah. So and consumables just create that little bit that on ramp for some of those newer users to the category. So where there's growth and category growth to be had, you're going to see products fill the space.
I mean, of course, totally. I'm going to bring this back to Matt because I feel like he's the gatekeeper of this one. So when do you guys think you'll launch in D2C?
Look at the commitment timing here. What's the date?
On mic.
It's Katelin every day.
Yeah.
Soon, meaning hopefully by early second quarter.
Yeah.
It's going to be the usual things of logistics for the packaging and the product coming together. We're finishing commercialization on the D2C formula. From a consumer standpoint, it won't look or feel or taste any different. We're now doing packaging that's going to be reflective of several states versus just Illinois, the market that we're in today.
Yeah. And what states are you going to launch in?
I'm not sure we really finalized that one yet. So there's a list of states that are permissive for the format. And then there is also just the bandwidth of where to focus from a advertising perspective, where to put the focus from the dollars we're spending.
But we are... Well, I was just going to say, but we're, or at least I won't speak for everyone, but we're really bullish on the Midwest. We opened this call talking about Chicago and the CPG community here. I think even within the cannabis industry, the Midwest is always the flyover states, right?
Yeah.
And we really, are trying to make something that's going to be, my mom loves MixMix, right? We want it to be something that people who want the benefits and want something that tastes great and is fun, they can enjoy it. And I feel like the Midwest is the best, pressure test for that. And
absolutely.
It's also our backyard. So we'll definitely be starting here.
Yep.
Well, I also think what's an interesting point that you're saying, Allison, is that like, okay, the Midwest is always the flyover states, but the Midwest is actually where most of the consumers are. And the reason is that I was just saying this earlier today, like the West Coast and the East Coast, they might set the trends because it's like more populated areas, whatever it is. And this is just coming from like my brand building experience of like other brands. I always see that like West Coast, East Coast set the trends, but then the most of the consumers in a consumable product come from the Midwest, and they're really usually a mom who brings them into the house because
oh shoot, we're on. It's probably gonna make a.
But I mean, listen, and I don't have like the data backed from it. I'm just saying this from like a standpoint of where I've seen a lot of like consumer behavior analyses, and. Like what always happens when I'm looking at like a health and wellness brand or apparel, whatever it is that it's always in the Midwest because, and I wouldn't say always, but like majority of the time. And then also majority of the time, it is not only the moms, but it's just in general a female audience that brings a product into the house and then influences the male audience. And I think that's, and again, this is the part that like I don't have data backing. It's just a gut feeling that I think that's because like the mom or the female audience are just more likely to try something, especially as it relates to your well-being.
We're nodding.
Yeah, I mean you're touching on like all my hot buttons, like. We've talked a lot about millennials.
I know.
But parents, I mean, listen, I still like to have an alcoholic drink sometimes, but it's for me and where I'm in my life right now, it's just not, it doesn't happen as often as it used to, right? And a big part of that is because I'm a parent, because of my life stage, but also can I give like maybe a popular, unpopular opinion? So in cannabis in particular, there is more data all the time that's coming online, but still not a lot. Longitudinally when you compare it to like other CPG businesses or when there's a lot of third-party suppliers of like shopping data and stuff like that, right? Certainly growing. But I think there are a lot of women in particular and folks that are newer to the category that are buying through the regulated channels, but they're not the one purchasing. So, you know, how many products like do I send my husband to get, when he's at the store? Because he's already making a trip. So I think sometimes the data is tricking us a little bit to be like,
for sure,
no, this is the demographic of the purchases that are happening in dispensaries. It's like, but who are the users behind that?
The users.
The amount of friends I have that are like my boyfriend or a guy friend. Every time they go to the dispensary, I have them pick up the edibles I want. And so when we're talking to buyers in the space, a lot of the conversation we have is this notion of the high dose consumer, because certainly they're coming the most often, but we're sometimes forgetting the Canna Curious or maybe even just they are an active user and they use it every day, but they don't use 10 milligrams and more. So like there is a big opportunity, and
also generationally too. One of the biggest users of regulated cannabis are boomers.
Yes.
In Michigan, I think the average age of like the heavy users like 65 plus or something. And and for them too, again, my mom is a, first-hand experience, like they're buying what's available at the store. It's not necessarily what they would choose if there was more assortment, right? Or more options.
Yeah.
So.
We've also run into that consumer in Illinois that they've never set foot in a dispensary.
But they order hemp. Yeah.
They've used the product for years, products for years. And it's the buyer that's going, it's their neighbor, it's the guy that they know that's always going, friend of theirs. It doesn't give you like full insight into like what's in that total basket. This part's always going over to this person that's never set foot in there. I mean, one of the small reasons why D2C would be fun, because now you're talking to that person who can actually peruse a menu, which they might be doing for a brick and mortar dispensary, but you're having a closer conversation with them at the moment they're making a purchase decision.
Yeah. And listen, we're pro, dispensaries and brick and mortar as well. Like, I think omni-channel is the way, right? For every startup CPG brand. But
that was a buzzword. Just for those at home.
can't take the jargon out of me.
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
But I think the more, to your point, like the more products that come online to serve these audiences and the better people's needs will be met. And the more places you'll be able to access it, the better.
Yeah.
We like to do this game of what did your parents say? Like whenever we meet people in cannabis, like what was the reaction of your parents or your family when you said you were starting in cannabis? And we all have our own stories, but you know, it's funny that you say it's really popular amongst boomers. When Allison and I and Matt too have been consulting in this space for upwards of 5 years now. And so this was before we started MixMix. And when I first started, you could see my parents were trying to be supportive, but also like, how am I supposed to tell my friends? You know? And now I get pulled over at parties when I'm at home in Florida visiting them. And they're all like, will you bring me some? Like now it's totally transitioned from like, how are we supposed to tell our friends to all their friends seeking me out every time I'm out, being like, do you have any MixMix? Do you have any edibles? Like, I need to sleep. I haven't slept well in years. So it's just really interesting how things have changed since,
Well, yeah. I mean, it's going back to even like what we were saying in the beginning of just like about the stigma. Like we didn't specifically say it, but it's like the stigma of cannabis.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. It's
still
so
there.
Interesting. I know. I mean, I'm sure in like, I don't want to say what I was thinking, but I'm sure in some places there is still a lot of like.
There's still a lot of stigma out there. I think we're so deep in it every day. I mean, we live and breathe it every day that we sometimes forget that it's still a fairly new concept for a lot of folks, that it's legal and that you can buy it. And frankly, there's a lot of inequity too in the way that the legal market has come forward. But I don't know. This is like where I'm like such a nerdy CPG person, but like I believe if there's a need and consumers want it, it will find a way. I mean, gosh, we sound I don't know how we made ourselves sound so old on this broadcast, but like,
speak for yourself.
I mean,
whatever. It's on LinkedIn.
I know. I love it. Right?
You're there anyway.
We're hitting our demo.
I know. Did we slay? Did we eat?
When they started using Ohio as a derogatory term, like I can't follow.
Literally.
Yeah. One thing I will say is I feel like that ties towards my personal why is I think a lot of times in cannabis and in culture is we forget the foundation of this industry, and that was to help medical patients. So a little bit about me. My brother passed away from brain cancer a couple years ago, and he was actually one of the first Illinois medical patients. Maybe not the first, but he was in the first wave of medical patients in Illinois. And at the time, I remember my sister-in-law going to the dispensary on his behalf. What you might not know about brain cancer is it makes life really hard to function, right? So, and it's in your head, so food and drink and smoking, like you're not doing so much of that. But so there weren't products that fit him for relief in terms of helping him through the end of that journey. And it was something that really stuck with me of like, fitting into your life versus creating something that you need to establish a new behavior for of like, a 2 milligram or a 5 milligram into the water he was already drinking would have done like so much to help him in terms of, getting
pain
the relief and pain management. And I think we forget sometimes the backbone of where we started in terms of cannabis of like, we are CPG at the end of the day and everyone wants to make a dollar, but there are so many people who have been positively affected by cannabis in terms of their medical needs on a daily basis that, I really want to make sure that we're still serving them at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Sorry, did that get cheesy?
No,
I don't really talk about it.
I love it. I love it. That's a good brand story.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the one thing as you guys like think about like moving into D2C too, is like actually sharing those stories because that's going to help you build that a brand affinity.
Yeah, what the watchers out here don't realize is we go to Jess all the time and we're like, how do we do this?
So this is really just a live advisement call for Open Late. Okay.
A little bit
really
therapy,
an ad now.
A little bit of advice.
Also I talked about, I don't usually tell that story. But
yeah. Well, one of the questions that I want to ask you, and this is switching gears a little bit because like I do have 3 big questions to ask before we end, but I obviously know the risk that you guys are taking in this industry because we've talked about it a lot and like we talked about the things that you're doing, but I'd really be interested to know like what outside of like the things that we've talked about, what's the biggest risk MixMix is taking outside of just I'm in the cannabis. I'm doing something different.
The biggest, like there's
There's so
lots.
many.
Pick one, Matt.
It changes, I guess, a lot. I think what's interesting about cannabis. So if you're someone that likes to have a different challenge every day,
Me.
startup life is good.
Fucked up.
Yeah,
But-
we're broken for sure.
Cannabis is a great place to be because 5 years ago, like that whole conversation, it's because different states are coming online every year with their version of what's legal and what's not.
Yeah.
That goes fast and slow. And it's amazing. Like you can get in your head about it a bit and worry like, oh no, what's going to happen tomorrow? And I think our challenge is the risk, I think, is being nimble enough to pivot where you need to without putting too much emphasis on the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And the format that we've built, how we're CapEx light, that's how we're kind of placing our bets. I think that's the biggest risk.
For anybody who doesn't know,
Yeah.
can you explain what CapEx is?
You want this one?
Remember when I asked
Yeah,
what
all right.
there was a day where I asked what a cog was. So anyone who's new to starting a business,
CapEx.
anyone can
Sorry,
do
thanks
it.
Come to Katelin.
Yeah. My dad almost fell out of his chair.
Usually when we say it's capital expenditure. So I bought some equipment. I bought a line to put into a manufacturing facility. If you did that incorrectly, let's say you made a bet and you guessed wrong, like I'm going to go to Indiana because Indiana is going to go legal. It's not anytime soon. So you make that bet and you're wrong. Like I feel like that's still the biggest risk. The things we worried about maybe 3 years ago, we first started thinking about this, have really evaporated for me. It's not like, oh, is cannabis going to be a thing? Like the genie is out of the bottle. Like it's going to be a category.
I hope that genie is Robin Williams.
That would be delightful.
I would be so pleased.
There you go.
I can see the advert.
Yeah, me too.
I honestly
Emotional
just
anthem.
I'm just imagining the mural in Logan Square.
I was thinking of the same thing. I was like, no one's gonna know what street that's on.
Yeah.
Milwaukee.
Yeah.
The OG genie.
Yeah.
Let's put a picture in the bottom of the.
Oh, don't worry. Sorry I've derailed this, but live show.
Yeah.
It's getting
That's
late.
what I think the biggest risk is that we spend a lot of time on, I think, is you want to keep moving forward. You want to have progress. You want to take small risks. That's in general advice for CPG. Like you can make mistakes, that's fine, but make them small and quickly recover and keep moving forward.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest risk, I think.
Mine's really specific to marketing. I think, and I'm giving away a lot of internal conversations here, so kick me if you feel
sorry.
obligated. But if I go too far, I think one thing with our format is the flexibility is both the most exciting thing about what we do and also the most difficult because people tend to like to be told what to do. And when you give them too much freedom, they panic. Like people are like, you can put it in anything. And you're like, yeah. So like we've actually had a lot of conversation and come around to kind of key serves and kind of, going drink forward as we come to market, knowing that, you can start with, suggested usage and then let them come to whatever makes the most sense for them as they, try MixMix. But that's something that like we've had so much conversation about is like this, we have a sea salt variety. So that's delicious in any food that you have. You also can put it in water if you're a marathon runner and, it helps with hydration. But like when you open things up almost too much, people get scared. And that I totally didn't expect when we first started. And so like that has been a learning already. But I think to me, that's the biggest risk in how we go to market. In terms
That's
of
good.
communication.
Yeah.
That's my
That's a
biggest
good one.
Wow.
Wait, you guys,
You're right.
I
We
actually
should
have
do
a
that.
campaign
Smart.
idea for you.
Okay,
Do
good.
it. Give
That
it to us.
could help with
advice.
these people. Yeah, I think you should start the campaign with an ASMR of the many ways, and then you open it up and the many ways that you
She's in
can
her
use
head.
it.
She's in
It's a
her head.
video. Yeah.
Yeah, ASMR for anybody listening.
I think they
MixMix.
dropped it. I'm just kidding.
I know. They're like, I gotta go.
They heard People magazine and noises, and they were like, I'm out. what's
Anything that
yours?
you want to add?
What was the question?
Biggest
Biggest
risk.
risk.
What do you think
Biggest
the biggest
risk?
MixMix is taking? And you can skip it because we're never gonna get to the other two.
Okay, I'll skip it.
Okay.
I mean, there's just
Great.
so many.
Let me give you this next question. You
start
ready?
next one.
Oh no.
If you could collaborate with any brand outside of cannabis, Who would it be? And Katelin, you can't answer.
Oh, wait.
Yet.
Any brand.
Any brand.
I have so many brand
Is it
crushes.
Disney?
No. I've
I
worked with Disney
mean,
before. They are
Talk
terrible.
about they protect their IP.
I
like, for
know.
real.
Oh.
Oh
We'll
my
X
gosh.
that out.
Any brand outside of mix. There are so many. Actually, one of my favorite. Okay, this is just because I'm on the spot. One of my favorite ways to use MixMix is in a glass bottle of Topo Chico.
Oh, yes. Yes.
You don't have to get fussy with it. It's delicious.
Yeah. Imagine the content.
And then a click
Hair open, click open.
Oh.
Wait,
Also,
no.
there's so many hot sauce brands too.
Yeah.
Like sign me up hot sauces.
Matt,
I got a
you
drink
deserve
for
to answer
you.
this question because
Yeah.
you're the
Can we?
CPG nerd.
Yeah. Like shout outs to tons of brands like Yellowbird. Give us a call.
Yes.
Hot sauce at Austin.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I think it's any brand that's complimentary and is interested in giving consumers that something new and delightful. They don't have to make it themselves. All the non-alc brands that we work with, the friends of the brand, Gia, Parch, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you see it?
I can see it. I can absolutely
I mix it at
see
my house constantly. So
I'm trying to get anybody listening.
yeah.
One of the founder of Gia to She Innovates in New York City. So I'll put it if the bird call is answered, I will put in a good word for you, Matt.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. God, I could see it. Gia and X MixMix.
There you go. I love it. Please keep doing that.
Okay. Last question. Okay.
Hey, we're almost done.
Yeah.
I could do this all day.
I
Flown by.
you didn't get to you.
You know what? I have I am the kind of person
Actually,
who can't.
let me ask you this
Yeah.
next question.
Please.
You ready? What's one lesson from building MixMix that every brand founder should know?
Wow. I should have had this on the. I should have thought. You know, it's between nothing ever goes the way that you think it's gonna go, and like, I think that's a huge learning lesson for me. Is, you know, continuing on because things are gonna get hard. Things are hard all the time. You have a million decisions to make. Everything feels like that decision is gonna make or break, and some might, but everything feels huge, and so to expect the unexpected and just continue to push forward. Progress is everything, and nothing is going to go the way that you think it is. Because I thought we'd be famous on day one. I thought we'd
What do you
come out-
mean?
Yeah.
We're on this
We're
live
day
stream
two.
right now.
Oh,
You know what I mean? I just thought everything you do all the steps and everything would happen easily. You're like, I'm launching this day, and we'd have the product ready that day, or like the website would be done that day.
Manifest.
Yeah.
Which is ironic because I work in advertising, and so like I had clients, but when it came to mine, I thought everything was going to be perfect.
Yeah. It's never perfect.
Yeah.
Like as a marketer, like you can do marketing for everybody else, but it's like you're your own worst critic.
I am the worst client.
We have
Yeah.
such a hard time
Ever.
taking our own medicine. You're talking to 3 consultants.
Yeah.
3 reform consultants.
Reform consultants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think I think like switching the lights on and thinking, oh, audience is built.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So,
But there's so much joy in it, though. I really couldn't imagine doing anything else
yeah.
with 2 better people. I couldn't. I will say, solopreneur life.
I was gonna. You stole it. That was gonna be my lesson learned.
Oh,
Find yourself a co-founder.
Yeah.
If you can.
You know what's
Yeah.
so funny, y'all? Like, I actually prefer to be a solo entrepreneur.
You are.
Let's keep talking.
Have you thought
No,
of
No,
it?
it's
don't
great.
discourage
Everyone
her.
has
Don't
their
get
own
it.
path.
Don't worry.
Right. It's hard.
I've
so hard.
I've had a few partnerships, like, because
Yeah.
I'm at this
That's-
point, I wouldn't
gotta
say I'm
find
a
the right partner.
serial entrepreneur but I've had a few businesses. I had like a design studio. I had an old podcast. I had, a few different business partnerships. And I wouldn't say it's like necessarily sour by any means, but I would say that like, I just beat at such a fast pace that I'm like, side hustle.
Yeah.
Brand positioning, change it. And it's just like, I liked the freedom. I
That's
just
fair.
like the freedom.
That's fair.
That's just my choice though.
I mean, well, it certainly depends on your co-founder too. We've heard from lots of folks that are like, When we decided to get together,
We decided to
our
get married?
attorney was literally like, looked at me and was like, "This will be harder to dissolve than your marriage if you decide to break up."
I did.
Thank you.
I take it back. Like one of my businesses is two of them technically is like a business partnerships with like. One is with my homegirl Dylan.
Yeah.
I think you've met.
I've
you've
been
met
to a couple
Dylan.
of your events. They're
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah, and like the experiential stuff is just like with my business partners with that has been really like dope. But you're right though. Okay, I take it back. Sorry, at the end of this, I do take it back because I think like there's some businesses I can be a solo entrepreneur for, and some I can't. And, and I will say Dylan and I just like we mix very well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Because like
Make it a verb.
she's like a salesperson and I'm the marketer. You know what I mean? And it's just like so. I think different types of businesses, shall I say?
That was one of the hardest things. I'll be done after on the hardest things or lessons learned. Like you gotta, if you do have I love having co-founders. I love having co-founders, and it was. We were also all friends before we became co-founders, but like one of the things we learned and like still work on, but like a lot, just like a marriage in that first year, was like how to communicate with each other, how to like be really fast and transparent because we are moving so quickly, but like not to make it personal, like all the inner relationship things, like we all just used to hang out and like, do edibles, and now we're like in a business together. It's a different kind of thing.
Yeah, we don't do that now as much. Yeah. I mean, it's a build on what you said, actually. Time is a big one. Like you'll never forecast time correctly. So always build in more money, probably too. The biggest thing that was helpful that I tell anyone, especially that's younger, like they're more junior in their path to like starting their own thing, get a community.
Yeah.
Meaning like a very
Literally.
tight network of people that will tell you your stuff is shit or stuff that's awesome, and then you have constructive criticism.
Yeah.
You want people that like applaud when you have a win, even though it's a tiny one. People that you can phone up and say like, I really need your 2 cents because I can't do it constantly with the co-founders. You need to get an outside perspective because we're too far
perspective absolutely matters for sure.
Yep.
For sure. Well, that's why I'm trying to get your help, Matt, with Sweet Rem.
You're in.
You're saying it on camera. Okay.
You're in a circle.
All right, y'all. We're at the end of the road, and we are at the end of this after
That
hours.
was great.
I appreciate Allison, Katelin, Matt for coming on. And for anybody listening out there, if you tuned in late, this will also air on Above the Fold this Thursday, but I will also have it on YouTube. And we hope to, before I finish that.
Well, wait, open your gift.
Shoot. GetMixMix.com, right?
Yeah,
That's right.
Good job.
In the show notes. Hold on, I have a gift. I know I'm making some ruffles.
Oh, I should have.
Allison
did the. I told you.
Wait a
I
second.
like some tissue.
A MixMix hat.
You also gave us stickers, so we wanted to return the favor, and then a couple of MixMix cups.
You guys, anybody listening out there, make friends with the MixMix people. Maybe coming in hot with the
There
merch,
we go.
okay? Links will be in the show notes, and I appreciate you all tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next After Hours next month, and I have a really dope surprise for you then. Awesome. Toodles.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Dang, we've made it to the end of the podcast and you're still here. So thank you so much for listening to Above the Fold podcast. For the best of this episode and every episode, be sure to follow us on Instagram and my YouTube channel. And for deeper dives on the secrets to brand success, don't forget to subscribe to my weekly newsletter, Sunday Postcards. All right, my dudes and gals, see you next week.